It's like the Kathy Griffin mask situation with the Trump mask or whatever. It's like, it is not a big deal to us over here. It's not representative of much of anything. And you are choosing it as this sort of beacon of what's wrong with anybody who's progressive or liberal or whatever. Anyway, you know how the right works.
Yeah. Right. You know, like you could be like, there's people going home probably for Thanksgiving, you know, and they're sitting down, their parents are like, that Jussie Smollet trial, you know, they're finally going to get him. And someone's going to be like, what?
What are you talking about, girl?
Yep. Welcome to Keep It, Crooked Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III. I'm a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
And I'm Aida Osman. I'm a TV writer and alleged comedian.
Let's get into it.
So this week, my Keep It is going to be the Jussie Smollett trial, which I know everyone's like, what? Didn't that already happen? And it did. And it ended. And then it came back. And now it's back for the finale, which is his criminal case in Chicago.
Did it end in a mistrial or something?
Yeah, it was thrown out. And then the city is now sued civilly because they want money back from the investigation. But what is happening this week, which is very serious, quote unquote, is a criminal trial based off the original allegations that he faked all this. Which, like, honestly, he probably will lose. It's very likely. But like, he's gonna just do community service. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. But I think like all of us, we're just over talking about this. And what I'm so annoyed with is that like through the 2 years, this happened in 2019, that we've been like obsessing over Jussie Smollet. Like Fox News talks about it every day. Like I somehow monitor this still. Is that like we still haven't talked about the fact that like the hate crime that may have happened to him happens all the time, and they're only going up. Like this year is the highest rate ever recorded so far, and like people still don't care. But everyone keeps talking about Jussie Smollett. So I'm just like over it because like we keep like ignoring the real issues in the world by talking about Jussie Smollett, which like I just don't. I love him, fellow black gay queen, sure, but like I want to move on past this.
I mean, I feel like a whole insurrection happened since that. You know, like plenty of things have happened since the Jussie Smollett trial. You know, I mean, is Lady Gaga on the defense team? You know, I know that she is trying to be a crime solver,
crime reporter.
Oh, right. Yes.
I just, yeah, it was weird when you would even mentioned to me before in an email that the Jussie Smollett trial was back, because I was like, back?
What?
I was like, we still doing
renewed
this?
for a fourth season. Yes.
It just like it's like it really feels like renewed for the fourth season. And like I get it why like Donald Trump, I don't know if y'all know this, fun fact, when Donald Trump was impeached and he flew to do that big rally, one of the first things he said was the impeachment is a hoax, and that Jussie Smollett, it's similar to the Jussie Smollett hoax, and that he's really the victim.
It's a real big scam, just like the impeachment of your president is a scam.
And like, so Donald Trump in his first statement about being impeached, like brings up Jussie Smollett. So that's why it's like such a big deal, because the right's obsessed with it, but like, let it go. Let's just let it go. It just is annoying on every level.
That's interesting to me because I mean, I feel like obviously, you know, like you were monitoring this story, but we never really get into the minutia of the fact that there are certain news stories that like the right and like the Fox News like obsess over daily, and like just racist old white people are getting a constant barrage of not information about every day, but just like the same insane fact repeated every day, and then it drills into their head.
It's like the Kathy Griffin mask situation with the Trump mask or whatever. It's like, it is not a big deal to us over here. It's not representative of much of anything, and you are choosing it as this sort of beacon of what's wrong with anybody who's progressive or liberal or whatever. Anyway, you know how the right works.
Yeah.
Right. You know, like you could be like, there's people going home probably for Thanksgiving, you know, and they're sitting down, their parents are like, that Jussie Smollett trial, you know, they're finally going to get him. And someone's going to be like, what?
What are you talking about, girl?
Anyway, shout out to Fox News.
My Keep It is to the Grammys. I should technically be excited for this because, you know, it's the G in EGOT. It's something we celebrate every year. I have a pretty good historical knowledge of the Grammys and like who won Album of the Year all these years ago. So like my brain is trained to love it. But honestly, over the past couple years, they've devolved so terribly. And now there are thousands of nominees per category, which the New York Times just told us was decided at the last minute that they would add 2 more nominees to the major categories, up to 10. And somehow we know which 2 nominees were added every time. In the Album of the Year category, Donda by Kanye West and Evermore by Taylor Swift were added at the last minute. And it's like when you heard when Peter McNichol got disqualified from the Emmy guest actor category and they replaced him with Peter Scolari. And then Peter Scolari ended up winning that. And you thought, well, he wouldn't have even been nominated had he not been disqualified. So this entire thing doesn't make any sense. Anyway, this is just another chapter in the Grammys. I don't want to say don't matter, because of course they don't matter. Awards don't matter, whatever. But they stand for so little at this point. And ABBA is finally nominated for the first time ever in the a song category. And it was revealed they were added at the last minute. So it's like, I can't even really be happy for them. And I'm an ABBA super fan.
Well, that's the name of the game, Lewis.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda Seyfried.
I also can't be happy for them because I don't like this album.
I know. I don't want this. Like, I want to be honest about my feelings because it's a pop culture podcast, but I kind of was willing to just lie for the rest of my life and say I really liked it. But you unfortunately have changed my direction.
When you put on ABBA now, it will turn up a dance floor still, you know?
Please.
And the only thing this is turning on is the Lord of the Dance. Like, I do not know how our disco and pop kings and queens gave us this, album that sounds like it's the soundtrack to Dancing at Lunasa. What is happening here?
Wow. A Meryl Deep cut for me. Thank you so much. It must be Christmas time. No, you're right. It's just kind of a drab album too. I like I Still Have Faith in You. I like that song, but obviously the greatness of ABBA's older albums remains immortal, and you can revisit that time and again, luckily. But this album I don't need to as much.
My Keep It this week goes to, I guess, sort of this need of feeling like people need to suffer problems in silence, and I think it's coming directly from the loss of Virgil Abloh, who died this week unexpectedly to us at the age of 41, but he was silently dealing with a cancer, and he died just 2 years shy of when Chadwick Boseman died. And I just feel like it's just really sad and heartbreaking, getting these stories, sort of famous black men who are giants in their industry sort of dying, but also, sort of silently dealing with it because, they're devoted to their work, yes, but also feel like there's this greater purpose that they need to do, especially Virgil, talking about how him being the head of, Louis Vuitton, right? Wasn't the win for him. It was the idea that getting 6 other black kids after him, in the door, or seeing another fashion house take a chance on someone who was, sort of breaking the fashion game, making it cool. And, I know we always made a lot of jokes about Virgil. Did
we?
Yeah, black people were always.
People
I see. I said
always. Yeah.
I misinterpreted the "we" there. Yeah.
Isn't it a $20 considered a Virgil? Is that what it is?
I think so. Yeah,
something
a
like
Virgil.
that, yeah.
Yeah, but it was always understanding that we loved his work. He was always great at getting other people in the door. He's such a great visionary. Done so much fucking amazing work for Kanye, to be honest. Was the good angel on his neck, if we're talking about it in that respect. But I just feel like I get being devoted to your craft, and listen, Virgil and Chadwick aren't the only people who sort of had to struggle through this. But man, it really just sort of sucks feeling you are in a world where you have to hide this diagnosis so that you can sort of continue to do the work, because you're also probably afraid of how people will react or treat you if they know that you have it.
Yeah. And I also just think a lot about these two men, Virgil and Chadwick. are people that were pushing the culture forward specifically for Black people and in charge of like creating bigger tables. Like Black Panther changed everything for so many people, similar to what Virgil has done. And the fact that we see Virgil took on like even a bigger role. He's the highest profile Black executive at the highest profile luxury goods company in the world. And he did that while battling cancer. Shows that like on his mind was, I gotta make good use of this time I have left so that more people have seats. And it just breaks my heart that like the last few years on this earth for both of them, Chadwick and Virgil, was about building tables for people that they can't sit at anymore. It's just really, really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it really resonated, particularly after losing, I think, Sondheim, when people were talking about how he was still, seeing shows up until like right before he died, And I have friends who, I have a friend who was working on PR with his company. I have friends who were doing work with him, and they had meetings planned with him at Art Basel this week. Like they were flying to have these meetings when they got the news that he died, which means he was like working up until that last minute. So yeah, I feel like that's a really great point, Zach. Just the idea of these Black men working for seats at the table for other people, and now they can't even really enjoy that. And the other way it makes me think of Sondheim is you brought up, Lewis, how we don't have that many gay elder statesmen, who survived like AIDS, who are able to share their work with us. And it just makes me sad about the dearth of, like older Black artists who we haven't seen, reach that point, like you every time so often you get someone like a Cicely Tyson who's still alive or something, right? But like the other ones, there's so many things I feel like that can kill Black men these days, and it's very sad seeing like a Chadwick and a Virgil taken out like that. And then it also, I feel like, in a way puts a fire under other Black creatives to want to get their stories and work done, but I don't know, you're running against like a clock that is running out quickly. So.
Well, Sondheim is also the standard for how you want an artist appreciated. Again, he was somebody whose entire body of work was being celebrated as early as 1973, And so he got to spend 50 years personally himself knowing how much his work meant, but also everybody else got to say what it meant to them too, and and really zero in on that and have a moment communally about that.
Yeah. And I will say, even though Virgil did die so young at 41, to pull this full circle for all of us, he's also from the Chicagoland area. He's from Rockford. And what I know most from living in Chicago is that he was deeply loved and celebrated alongside Kanye West his career the last 10 years. So that's where I find a lot of grace with him, is that he did know people loved him a lot. And he really leaned into that by creating, like, every event he'd have, he'd make sure students were there at his shows. He was always teaching, but he knew he was loved when he left. And I think that's really special, because so many people don't know that when they leave this earth. So at least we have that, I guess.
Lastly, I just want to think about the last line, in like Doreen St. Felix's piece on him in The New Yorker, where she wrote that his presence caused or forced the fashion industry to accept the values that it dismissed as unserious: earnestness, excitement, credulity, love, and what could be more serious than love. And bringing that back to Sondheim, I sobbed during like the last hour of West Side Story, and I think that stories like that and art like that is really important and is really meaningful to people, and I think that that's what a lot of people want to see more of, and that's it.
Slay.
Yeah.